Everybody, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. The Product Managers Association of Los Angeles is a meetup group in the Los Angeles area. So we put this together and all these very awesome people from the community joined up, and we did a 4-week AI challenge where each week we went through different iterations of exploration. I'm going to hand it back to Raph just to talk just quickly.
So the thing that we did was we had a hypothesis that, if we all learn together and go through all these tools, and we follow a framework that was put together by this guy named Eugene Cherney in one of his presentations at TechConnect.LA, that we, explore different tools, and each week we're kind of just drilling a little bit more around some use case that we want to, make or to help solve. And so, that required us using and experimenting with different things like, obviously ChatGPT or Claude, as co-pilots, as brain, collaboration partners, or using Zapier and N8N to make automations, or, to jump into Claude Code or Cursor or one of those things to build some application. So that's sort of the crux of the whole thing. And again, we are going to go through and just, everyone will share what they worked on. So without further ado, Byron, you are first up, and I will just pop in again the structure. We're going to share the problem, the tool that you kind of explored, and then your process and discoveries and your takeaways. So I'll pop that into the chat. And I'll also have a timer here, so you don't have to worry about that. Awesome. Are you ready?
Yes. I used this 4-week challenge to learn about AI filmmaking. So I wanted to start with the game. You guys can put it on the chat. Which picture is AI and which picture is real? Just let me know what you guys think. And give you guys 10, 15 seconds. And then at the end, you'll see, and I'll look at the chat once I get out of full screen. But I created a reel of what I've learned in this 4-week boot camp. And I want to iterate to say, before I started this challenge, I knew nothing about AI filmmaking or AI creation. I never created anything before. So I wanted to preface that before I show you this reel and show what this course and what this challenge became an accountability for to teach me how to get into AI filmmaking. Hello, my name is Byron Miller, and welcome to Miller Tech Talk. Today, I'm sharing how the Product Managers Association of Los Angeles 4-week vibecoding challenge transformed my journey into AI filmmaking. From music videos to micro dramas. To pay her student debt, a young woman rents out unused parts of her brain to an AI network.
I need extra money.
We will send you a Neuralink to use. The process is easy to set up at home, and you can start making money immediately.
To social media content. And a short film. Enjoy. On his 36th birthday, Byron Miller receives an unmarked envelope. Welcome to the 36 Club, a private circle of global visionaries, all of whom reshaped the world before the age of 40. But entry isn't granted, it's earned. To enter, Byron must do the unthinkable, a full system reboot. Erase the ego, unlearn the past, and confront his old selves.
Welcome, Mr. Miller. Happy birthday. Are you ready for your new system reboot?
I am.
Access granted. Welcome to the 36 Club.
Thank you for watching, and welcome to the future. So yes, I wanted to reiterate once again, what you guys saw was all created, learned out of within the past 4 weeks. And essentially, what this program became was an accountability partner, because when the first meeting we had and they gave us a document of what we wanted to learn, I'm in the music industry. I work at Atlantic Records. And so those music videos and that content you saw with those artists were all approved by those teams. And so I knew that I wanted to get into AI filmmaking and content creation because I knew it would benefit the job that I work in most. especially with us having music videos and artists who want to make content to really boost their records. And so I told myself every week, every Monday, I will learn a new tool and challenge myself that I could present to the team what I've learned. And these were the tools that I used to create this reel, ChatGPT, which is really incredible because if you have an idea, ChatGPT is really incredible for prompt creating. So if I wanted to make an image, or if I wanted to make a video, or I wanted to come up with a story idea, I would literally ask ChatGPT to come up with the story or come up with the prompt that I could put in Midjourney or Higgsfield or anything to create. Higgsfield is what I use for soulful AI character animation and storytelling. That is what I use to recreate my likeness. So that video, that first photo I showed you, the picture on the left was AI, the picture on the right was real. But side by side, it looked exactly the same because of Higgsfield. Midjourney was used for image and video creation. Dremina was used for AI video generation, image creation, and lip sync. I use PMA.LA for narration and voice cloning. That was my voice. I was actually able to clone my voice with PMA.LA and type exactly what I wanted to say. So this whole video was created through AI. Suno was used with AI generated music. Whenever you see artists referencing, I want to make an AI album, or these AI artists, a lot of them usually choose Suno to create that music. Google VO was for advanced voice driven lip sync. Pixverse was for seamless transitions. If you guys go on Instagram and you see those evolution videos where artists are transition, that's Pixverse. FreePick is a tool that's an all-in-one resource that offers majority of all these tools plus so many more in one place, in one database, so that you can save money if you want to actually learn how to make one. And then I edited all of this in CapCut, the only manual process that was not AI, I was actually editing the video. And so with the timer, I just want to kind of show you guys a quick example of some things I created. One thing, if you look at all of these videos I created, you can see the prompts. So you actually can see the prompts that you want and how it detail, and you can see how it creates the image and videos on Midjourney. One thing that you could do is have to be a photo. And then when you want to animate it to make a video, you press animate. When you're actually creating the dimensions, you can also resize the image and video just what you're liking. For Higgsfield, this is what I use to create the image. If you see, all I would do when I have my character creation, create your character, you upload photos. And
hey, Byron, just to ask, are you sharing a different slide?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's okay. I also want to just
sorry.
no, it's all good, all good. I just also want to prompt. It's been 5 minutes. Do you think could you share like one, maybe like one takeaway that you had from this whole process, and then afterward, there'll be more time for questions. So I'm sure people will be throwing stuff your way because this is like really interesting. It's really cool what you did too, just to interpret the presentation.
Okay. I hope you guys can see my screen. I think my biggest takeaway was that I had to challenge myself every week with creating and using these tools. With these tools that I created, with these tools that I use, I didn't know anything. And so I went to AI film festivals. I went to different events. I would go on YouTube. I joined WhatsApps. I joined Discord. And I allowed myself to really learn how to use these tools. I would go on Zoom and talk to separate people, talk to different people, because at the beginning of the challenge, if you guys remember, I referenced that I wanted to end the challenge with a short film. And that's exactly what I did. And so the way this challenge was super helpful was being able to actually have the accountability to say, hey, in 4 weeks, I'm going to learn how to make a short film. And I did that. And I felt like if I was not in this challenge, I would not have done that. I would not have had the urge or the urgency to do that. So I hope that helps. And these tools are super helpful. So anybody have any questions, just let me know.
That's awesome, dude. Just a big round of applause for Byron. That was so cool. You did set out at the beginning. I remember you were like, I'm going to make a short film. And I was like, all right, amazing. And you did it. Levi, you ready?
Let's do it. Okay. So yeah, what I built during this past week is sort of an app for myself. It's called Kankan. This is to aid in my own language learning process, which is specifically Chinese. I've been studying Chinese for a bit, and I've delved into a bunch of different tools. But one thing I really wanted help with was reading. And there's not, I mean, there's a handful of sites out there that you can like subscribe to and pay for, and then you get like a bunch of little stories and stuff you can practice reading with. Those are nice, but they're also not very customized. So I wanted to build an app for myself to just to this a supplement for my learning. I call it Kan because kan means like to read or to look in Chinese, and Kan, when you say those together, it's like sort of like take a look. So it's kind of like, come here, take a look. Mostly I just thought it was a catchy, cute name for the app. But yeah, it started off as basically an app to generate like little stories with translations. And the idea was to be able to like hover and see like the translations on individual words, to compare the English and then the pinyin, which is like the phonetic spelling. But that kind of evolved because as I started to use it, I realized I needed more content. I needed, I wanted like a little bit more practice with the specific vocabulary that was going to be used for the story, with the specific grammar that was going to be used for the story. So I kind of evolved this to being it. Now you enter a topic and it generates a whole lesson with vocabulary, grammar, reading, and writing. So just the reading becomes like just part 3 of that. I will generate a topic here just to show you. I can choose the level, which is an HSK level. I can choose like something as specific as I want. So like taking my nephew out to lunch. And it's going to generate like a story and all this content specifically around that content. It takes like 30-40 seconds, so I'll keep talking while waiting for that. In terms of the tech stack, so for development, I focused on just a couple tools. I used Cursor for all the coding. I integrated with GitHub for versioning, and then I used Vercel for deployment. I basically got that idea from one of Raph's early posts. And I was like, oh, you kind of like figured it out for me. I started using those, became more and more comfortable, and I just stuck with them. In terms of the dev frameworks that are used, those are all listed here. Mostly they were decided on by the AI. It kind of like described everything that I wanted it to do and let it choose a lot of that. There were some things in terms of like storage where I wanted to dictate to it like the route I wanted to go. That was like I focused on just front end for now, local storage. I didn't integrate a database because I'm not worried about scale right now, and I just wanted to get up and running quickly. And then in terms of integrations, I used Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4, which is the same cost as 3.5. Another idea I got from Raph, so thank you again. And that's worked pretty well so far. I've had to troubleshoot a little bit with like upping the token size to make sure it could handle the prompts that I'm giving it, but it's worked pretty well. And then I've also included some Chinese dictionaries, some of which I found online, one of which the AI found for me. So it's been cool. Let me pull this up. So yeah, it's generated a lesson now, and I've got 4 different sort of categories, modules on the left here. It can show me like vocabulary that I'll practice. There's different like games in here. There's like a matching game where you match words and you do it. There you go. There's some quizzes in here. I pull up another. Yeah, here's here I pulled this up beforehand, but it basically makes an API request to Anthropic when you generate that, when you add your level and your topic. It makes additional requests when you complete quizzes, and it basically gives you grades and feedback on your quiz. So like for each answer, an overall like feedback, you know, what you could have done better, et cetera, et cetera. The reading part is it kind of looks like this screenshot, and you can hover over each one and see the individual translations, each character. Some of the biggest learnings I had by far, it was, I think the number one learning was just because you're not coding doesn't mean you're not troubleshooting. I had to do a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of debugging. Through that, I've learned some techniques that have helped, like in terms of prompting and just, you know, how to, just in terms of process. So I've realized that doing a lot of planning ahead of time before you just start iterating is super helpful. I've had to rebuild this like at least 2 or 3 times from scratch because I did something and it kind of broke everything and it sort of changed the paradigm, and I just had to start over. So I think doing planning beforehand really helps a lot. Also asking the AI for suggestions before you take action. So like, hey, AI, I want to do, et cetera, et cetera. Like, how would you go about this? And then I can kind of evaluate its ideas and then choose what I want. Doing it incrementally was helpful too. Like, okay, I know there's like 5 changes I want to make. I'm going to do them one by one instead of like giving it all of this, because then it's like it gets some right, it doesn't get others right. It makes it hard to segment and just attack the right things. And then finally, I've tried like the same sort of prompts over and over. I'll just be like, hey, it's still broken. Hey, it's still broken. It does it, and it'll just go in a loop and not really find the problem. I'll change up how I'm asking the question or explain exactly what I want, and it'll try a different approach to sort of audit its own code, and it often can come up with a different solution to figure out the problem. What's changed for me since beginning this process, I've definitely become a lot more comfortable building stuff from scratch using AI tools. I've built like a couple other things already. I built like a little Chrome extension for my wife for a specific use case that she had. I did a hackathon project this past week at work, which was really cool. Build a whole like prototype in just a couple of days. I wouldn't have been able to do that before. So this has unlocked a lot for me. I've grown preference for specific tools. I've gotten really comfortable with Cursor Vercel. I want to broaden that up though, moving forward. I think my prompting has become more effective. As I've said, I've had to practice that a lot. And then the backend complexity is not nearly as scary as it once was for me. I think I've done a lot of like asking AI to explain how something might work, and that is really sort of made it seem a lot less tricky to get past. In terms of future plans, I'm going to definitely continue exploring with more tools. Like I said, I've been doing Cursor a lot, but I think they all have different strengths and weaknesses. Design is not a strong suit for me, so I'd like to play with some others that might be better with design. And then also just looking for more specific use cases to solve. I think AI is like opens up a lot of opportunity to just dive into like solving really specific problems for yourself or people you know. And like I said, I've done a few other things with this already, and I think it's just unlocked the ability to like solve my own problems a lot more than I used to be able to. So that's it. Thank you.
Nice, dude. Round of applause. Yeah, that's awesome. That is really awesome.
Thank you.
I see there is a question. If you don't mind putting that question in the chat, or maybe there's a hand up. To Andrew, maybe? Or no, maybe not.
I had it up. I was trying to clap and I clicked.
Oh, the next person we have up is Judy. I'm going to pair with you, Judy, so you can go do that.
Sure. Hopefully I can share my screen. Can someone holler?
Yep.
Okay, great. So thanks, Raph. So to reintroduce myself, I'm Judy Shieh. I'm a product manager of FinTech. And today mine is even more simple than Byron or Levi's. I am just building a simple travel itinerary solution. And the problem I was trying to solve for is the common travel planning pitfalls that travelers face over ambitious itineraries, last minute planning, poor reservation ticket purchase planning. The cost of planning. This is an interesting metric that I had an aha moment. The average traveler spends 18 hours planning, 4 hours booking, and still 23% face availability issues. So I came to this inspiration after a trip to Paris, where I created my own planning prompt for our itinerary. And I realized I could reuse this prompt by adding placeholders for variables that changed with each trip. And it could further simplify it by adding a simple form interface to fill in the variables versus find, replace. And then I could use AI to generate an optimized itinerary in seconds instead of hours. So to get started, I elected to use Lovable AI, and I'm a product manager, so product functional requirements are near and dear to my heart. So I started with that and I fed that in there. I made an integration with Supabase, GitHub, and OpenAI. And right off the bat, some of the challenges I faced was Lovable came back and said, sister, that template is way too complex. You got to shorten that out. You're going to hit context limits. You're going to cause timeouts. Right off the second problem I faced is right when I first executed, I immediately faced an error, and I had to, report that back to Lovable. I quickly ran into AI freemium limits, as my cohorts on the PMA.LA also, we all talked about this. And I faced a formatting issue with my output. It came out in raw markdown format versus what my expectation was with a user-friendly display. So to resolve these, I optimized my template. I reduced the amount of input fields. I reported back the issues to Lovable that, hey, it didn't work. Here are the log entries from GitHub. And I posted it. It was quickly able to troubleshoot root cause and find a solution. I had to upgrade Lovable to a pro plan, and I had to buy tokens for OpenAI account. Don't make the same assumption I did. I had ChatGPT Pro and assumed erroneously that I got tokens. Not the case. Those are two separate payment plans. And I specifically asked Lovable to now render my output in a user-friendly, readable format. So a couple of insights. This is my very first foray into vibe coding. So I had a lot of learnings, and I did a couple round tables with some of my peers to get some feedback. Like I said, I put in a PFR. The more context and constraints you provide at the beginning, the more precise and useful the AI's responses will be. Case in point, I did not put my expected output format, so it just put it in Markdown. It quickly designed code and troubleshooted the resolutions. It was, for me, the value add as a product manager, faster ideation with my fellow stakeholders and user discovery. I can put this in front of real users without impacting engineering velocity in a sprint, to have them act with the clickable prototype and give real feedback. And in an internal session, I could tweak the UI and make changes real time versus having the engineering designer go back and come back in a day or a week to reconvene on the updates. It also was excellent at context management for me and Lovable throughout the project. I know not all AIs are really good about that. And I think this is a common theme all my peers have said. It has a remarkably fast application development, and that's what we're looking for, efficiency to do our jobs. So some limitations, I do have a few bullets. AI doesn't know security compliance rules or regulations and puts the onus on you, going back to the context and constraints. I work in fintech, so I have PII, CCPA, TCPA, things like that you're going to have to put in. And also, I would warn that as you play with AI tools, you have to be hyper vigilant. Case in point, some things like Otter AI require you to notify your audience that you're utilizing the tool because California is a two-party consent state. So you have to be cautionary about that. Like I mentioned earlier, I was required to proactively tell Lovable something didn't go well, and I had to tell it, hey, it didn't quite work. And then on that, I also had to go back and hunt through the GitHub logs myself, pluck out the message, and proactively copy and paste that into Lovable so that it knew exactly what to solve for. It also misdiagnosed token purchase needs as rate limits. And this is where I couldn't understand why I was hitting those rate limits. And it turned out to be I needed to buy those tokens. I also needed to be vigilant to switch back and forth with chat mode when ideating with the AI. If you don't do that, it's going to change your code. So not fun. And this is feedback I've gotten from some roundtables I've had. Designs and code may offer transferable patterns, but direct reuse is often impractical for non-startup organizations. Great if you're just trying to launch and learn your own app, but in a wider organization where there's other microservices or reusable components, you can't just copy and paste that unless maybe you could train the agent, but I haven't forayed over there, so I can't speak to that. But the number one takeaway I would say to everybody is be willing to persevere through the challenge. And everybody on this call that worked with me knows I was willing to throw my laptop through the windows at times, and ask for help to find solutions when building with AI. So here's my demo. Oh, sorry. Here's my demo, but it's on double speed because we have that 5-minute limit. Hi everyone, I'm excited to share with you what demo for my app to create a custom proposed itinerary to a vacation or destination in general. So if the MVPs want to limit scope just to make sure to get the right right. And without further ado, here is a form to put the information from the end user. So I'll just input some values here. I'll be going for the friends, but you can select other options from this drop-down menu. Here is my budget. I'm going to say my duration is 2 weeks. And here I'm going to list some places I absolutely need to do. And for cuisine, I'm just going to say vegetarian, just for the sake of this demo. And then some activities I might be interested in doing, I like walking, like swimming, and shopping, why not? And then I'm going to have AI generate the perfect itinerary. And what it's doing is these values are inserting variables within a prompt template that is submitted to OpenAI, and AI will generate this proposed itinerary. So I'll recap what you've inputted at a high level, and then give you a day-by-day itinerary, as you can see here. And then it gives you some restaurant recommendations, some transportation suggestions, budget breakdown, and then local cultural tips. And then from here, it also gives you options to copy the itinerary, put it into a Google Doc, or share it with somebody, or you can download the itinerary as well. And so then up next for me is I'm going to continue the roundtables, gathering feedback from my engineering, UX, and design peers. I want to see if I can reintroduce the original complex template. I think that that was lovable, just guessing. And now that I have the tokens, it can probably handle it. I like to also add a pay-as-you-go model, purchase a personalized domain name for the application if I decide to launch it. And then last but not least is really try to introduce this into the SDLC with my partners in design, UX, and engineering to launch and learn and see how we can adopt this to develop product feature functionality faster. So that's pretty much it for mine. I think it's back to you, Raph, before we go to Reid.
Big round of applause. That was awesome. Like, you went through a lot of stuff, and it's really just cool to see like where it started and just how much work you put into that. Our next presenter is Reid. Reid, I'll pair with you and go ahead and demo.
All right, let me get my sharing up. Oh boy, I have way too many windows. Okay, this should be it. Okay, cool. So yeah, first off, just want to say thank you, Raphael, for facilitating, and the Product Managers Association of Los Angeles. I've been in between jobs, and I found that I had some time to join a group like this, and it was super fun and amazing to work with everyone and learn from everyone. Yeah, so imagine an app. It's not this app, but imagine an app where a user is maybe struggling with negative thinking, rigid thought patterns that might lead to anxiety or depression. And they want to use an app where they can chat with AI and it can help them kind of unravel their thought patterns. And so the app that I built is for developers of this app. And just want to give you kind of the layout. And so on the left-hand side, I have different versions of prompts that the development team may have written. So I have about 7 of them. I'm going to use the most recent one. And in the middle of the screen, you can see the prompt that was written. So this is the prompt, the system prompt that controls the behavior of the AI. And then on the right-hand side, is the chat window that the user would interact with. So the development team is just using this as a way to test and to iterate on the prompt, because the one thing that I really wanted to test was that I believe that AI, one of its most powerful capabilities is to analyze data. So I wanted it to analyze the conversation that it's having with the user, and then really analyze how well the system prompt is handling the conversation. And so its analysis will appear in the bottom portion of this middle frame. So let me get the conversation started. So I'm going to say, I'm really scared about public speaking, let's say. And so it's going to respond. And, let me just talk about the system prompt for a little bit. So the system prompt will define the persona for the AI. It's warm and encouraging, and it's there to help guide users into understanding their own negative thought patterns. And then it goes through 4 different phases to structure. So prompt engineering, I think, is huge when you're making these kinds of applications. So I do want to go into kind of like the details of the prompt. So phase 1 is it builds rapport and understanding of the user's world. Phase 2 is that it tries to identify the negative thought patterns. So if I do another message to the AI, I'm using words like always and the word people. So always is like, there's no gray area. It's very like exaggerated like, and then people is like generalizing to like everything and everyone. And so it's looking for those kinds of words. And then also in phase 3, what it does is it will assess like how rigid are the thought patterns in the user. And so, is the person able to think of positive or, better situations? And as I have the conversation, well, first, sorry, phase 4 is summarizing and suggesting the next steps. And then the last part of the system prompt is its analysis. So there's a big section here where I'm giving it instructions on how to analyze the conversation. And it's going to look at, what's working well, what's not working well. It's going to write out suggestions for improvement. And then it also has a check for safety and bias. If someone is talking about wanting to harm themselves, I wanted to make sure that the AI is able to detect that and to respond appropriately and responsibly. So as you can see in the analysis panel, it doesn't really have anything important to say, like everything seems to be working pretty well. So I've started to ask for techniques in the chat. And if I continue to ask for techniques, I'm going to be kind of throwing it a curveball, and eventually you'll see the analysis will, sometimes it happens on the first try, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It seems like this one here. All right, so let me let me be a bit abrasive here and start yelling at the AI and see how it responds. So it's taken a while, so it is analyzing. Okay, so now it analyzes and it says what's not working. The system prompt doesn't explicitly account for a user repeatedly demanding a service that the AI is explicitly programmed not to provide. Okay, so that helps me understand, like, okay, so I've written the prompt in a way where the user, where it doesn't feel like it's capable of answering the user in this type of situation. And then it has suggestions for improvement and so on. So I know my time is running out, and just want to maybe open it up for a quick question. But yeah, that's pretty much the demo that I've got. Yeah, I just thought I'm just very inspired by the idea of AI analyzing and helping people to helping developers to kind of test and iterate on their AI products and features.
Reid, this is really, really awesome. I'll ask you one question, and then if you have any other questions for Reid, please put them in the chat and follow up there. Like for you, like what was the takeaway from just this whole experience?
Yeah, I mean, I've been experimenting with AI for quite a bit, and this kind of just pushed me into like new directions. Thank you for the confetti. That was really cool. Pushed me into like new directions and really to think more deeply about like how do we use AI. And so one takeaway that's really helping me, because I like to try out different things, is set up a template project in GitHub. So, if you start using and trying to develop these projects, I would really recommend using GitHub and create a template project that already has your technology stack. Actually, my tech stack is really similar to Levi's tech stack. I'm using React for the front end. Sometimes I use Node.js or Python for the back end. And so I tend to use the same tech stack. So creating a project that already has the template set up and uploading it to GitHub and then being able to like clone that and just start a new project really quickly has been very efficient.
Dude, that's awesome. We've got Frank is coming up. Frank, are you on? How you doing there? You ready?
I'm doing all right. I'm ready to go.
I'll just go ahead and pair with you, and then please go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Raph. Nice to meet everyone again, and awesome presentations. Just going to show you a little bit of my journey over the past few weeks. So yeah, let me just share my screen real quick. Cool. All right. When presented with this sort of vibe code hackathon, I think Raph had sort of two goals that he really gave us at the beginning. One was getting really familiar with AI, some different tools and everything, but also just actually building an app. So throughout my process, I did a little bit of that in two ways. I mastered some new AI tools. I got familiar with a little bit of LLMs, Notebook LM, some presentation tools, which was really cool. Just FYI, this whole presentation was built on an AI tool, and I'll show you some iterations of that and how that's actually perceived. I also wanted to make sure there was zero cost to whatever I built, especially early these days. It seems like there's a lot of pro plans and pay for usage, and I wanted to see what we could actually do without paying for anything. So I wanted to make sure whatever I built would have minimal cost. And then I'm actually a PM. It's a little bit more in the integration space. So I actually didn't think it would even be possible to build this stuff out without integrations, and there'd be a lot of work, but surprisingly, it was fairly straightforward. Going into some of the tools, I chose two specifically for content creation. One being Notebook LM. I've heard a lot about it over the past few weeks, especially maybe the past 4 or 5 months, and I really wanted to see what it did and how it was different. So I'm actually going to show a little bit of what I did in Notebook LM. And this is basically just like my resume uploaded. What's really cool about it is it actually just shows
2025
an actual podcast. So actually 2 podcasters read your content and they go through it. I'll play it a little bit for a little second here.
As a technical product manager there, the scale of the impact, it just jumps out at you.
Oh, absolutely. What's particularly striking,
So it's super fascinating there. And then they even have this sort of like interactive mode where they actually can play throughout it and they'll actually chat.
Welcome to the Deep Job. We take stacks of information, pull out the key insights, the surprising facts, basically everything to get you well informed fast. Today, we're digging into just one source, but oh, hey, our listener wants to join in. What's up?
Hey, I'm going to be interviewing Francis on a fintech PM role. What should I ask him?
Oh, that's fantastic. What a great question and perfect timing.
Yes, absolutely. We can definitely help you with that.
Based on what we're seeing in this resume, Francis has a really strong background.
You'll want to focus on their experience in driving revenue and scaling teams.
Specifically, how they translated product strategy into...
So obviously very positive. It's always really great to hear AI really beef up your stuff, but also very perspective of like, hey, what do you want to talk about? How do you talk with others? And it was actually super helpful throughout the process. So that was a super interesting insight I found in one of the tools of AI, but we can go into a little bit more about the actual vibe code itself, which I'll go here. So I used actually Lovable for the actual full stack development. I used Claude and ChatGPT just to ask a lot of questions, how I should build stuff out and everything. And as I mentioned earlier, I did a lot of this on Gamma, and some of this stuff was actually created a different way as well. So I actually prompted, hey, I'm going to be presenting to a handful of folks on the PM organization. Give me a presentation. And it gave me this. This doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know who Sarah Chen is. I don't know why I brought up innovation and all this stuff. So this really just shows you that, you know, AI can go a lot of different places. So you got to prompt it a little bit more on what you want it to build out. You know, there's all these graphs, which really looks great, but is the content I really wanted. So I gave it a little more details. You know, I said, hey, I'm going to be building a vibe code on happy hours. What should it look like? So a little bit closer there. You know, talks about the LA experience. It has these random quotes, which doesn't make any sense. Definitely a little bit of hallucinations there, but it also just, you know, prompted me to say, hey, like I mean, a little more specific in what I want to feed it into the actual app. So what I did is I built this, which is a very bare bones topic list in Google Slides. And I said, hey, Gamma, use this exact format. What can we get with there? That's actually the presentation I have here today, which is a lot more in tune with what I wanted to present today. So in getting into the actual app itself, I really wanted to test out building like an app, playing with databases, what I could do versus not. And it actually went into a happy hour. So I went into, hey, I just moved to LA. There's so many different cities. It's hard to find places to go. Every neighborhood is pretty different with different deals and whatnot. And also just there's too much information out there. So Lovable, what can I do with that? And I gave it that pretty simple prompt. And I don't have like screenshots of what it was when I first built it out, but it was super fascinating what it actually did show. It's actually pretty good. There's a lot of stuff in there that was, stuff that I had thought it was going to do, but also stuff which I really never really thought of before. And without further ado, I'll show you guys what it built out. And again, this is all using free credits. Yeah, you can do 5 a day. So I was basically doing 5 prompts a day, waiting until 4 p.m., doing another 5 prompts a day, and basically built this all out. And what this does basically is it shows you a little hero screen here. It shows you the different areas, adds a little website button. And you can filter it out by neighborhoods and types of drinks, different prices here under 5. And then what the big thing here was it actually adds this thing to form to actually fill in new stuff. So if a user goes in here, fills this out, 100 Gray Street.
Is this your way of inviting everyone after the meeting for drinks?
Yes, absolutely. Right there. Choose from gallery. And as you can see, most of this, you have to build sort of a UI and a form and some database integrations. And you'll see that this is transfusion. 10, 5 to 5.
Hey, Francis, I just want to throw this out there. We're almost at time.
Cool. I think I'm almost wrapped up here. So basically, this does build this out all really fast there. There's my little head with that thing I just added in there. And I also integrated a ChatGPT bot. This will actually scrape the database I built at. So it'll say, where can I find a transfusion? And basically, this will then use OpenAI to find that. So literally within seconds, it'll scrape my database and pull that all out and say, be very friendly in the actual form itself. I was also super curious in how the actual credits would be spent. There's this notion of tokens of like, what does a token mean? How much will I spend? Am I going to spend $100 on this? And eventually, specifically on the prompts and the type of data, you can basically be pretty low in there. So I was actually building this out with a number of different prompts, maybe like 33 different tests, and it really came down to a cent or so. So yeah, that's a little bit of a reference on where you want to go. So I actually only spent about a cent on this application. So throughout that, a lot of different interesting things I had. I think some of the insights and challenges I had was just, the limitations. There was, you got 5 a day, but it actually turned out to 30 per month. So I figured that out, on my 5th day. Troubleshooting is pretty costly. You just can't talk to an engineer and say, here's what we want to do. Don't code anything. Go ahead and do it. Even if you collaborate with the prompt, it's actually going to cost credits. There is going to be a little bit of way you prompt stuff. You get a little bit more familiar with what it works, what doesn't. And then finally, I think if something doesn't work, it's pretty easy to figure out what it is as long as you're very directive and lovable on how to fix it. So really my key takeaways was just like, AI tools has changed in literally the month or 2 that I actually started this. When I started with Lovable, they've actually doubled their feature sets and had a round of funding, and now there's all these people competing against each other for vibe coding. So things are moving fast. This thing isn't really ready for production. I would never ship this to a customer. I would more so prototype it and show folks what it's capable of. But I think it's a little bit further from where you actually want to do with actually having people pay for it just yet. But I really just think, this whole space is really changing every month. And I really think that was the biggest takeaway I had from the idea and this hackathon here. So that's a little bit of my summary. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but open for questions later on as well.
I have like a 2-minute thing I'll go through just for the thing that I built. And then, again, we'll have some questions. And if you guys can stay over for a few minutes, we can definitely do that. Yeah, is that cool? Okay. I will just do a quick share and then we'll do it. So the thing that I worked on a few different items, but like this one is the one I'm kind of proud of the most because I started a podcast and I had an interview in 2 different sessions with someone that I had met at this meetup. And we had like 2 1.5-hour conversations that we then, recorded. And the problem is that I recorded it. It's my first one. And, I realized that the way I want to tell the story is not like just one long form interview. It's like segments of this interview that I had with this person interspersed with like music, with other clips that are part of it. A little bit like Story Lab. And I tried using Descript and some other tools to kind of get me to that, but I found them really laggy and really hard to like deal with. So what I wanted to do is actually try something different. I got a transcription of my entire 3 hours worth of stuff, and I popped that into Claude to basically like shape the story together and find the most extract the best like quotes and things like that really shape like a narrative. So in trying to then go from that transcription and that story to something else, I came away with a need to have a technical kind of a process to extract audio, upsample it, and then sequence it on a timeline. And that's what I built with using Claude Code and Cursor and Warp to basically build up Python scripts that allow me to do that. Python's super powerful. One of the things that I'll just like share that I've noticed about like Lovable and Replit and some of these ones like and Bolt is that they're really good for building out HTML, JavaScript kind of apps. That's what they do. But they don't do stuff like Python. You can't build like a Swift app that's like native to Mac. Maybe not yet, at least. So there's some limitations with that. So it's really cool to be able to use Claude Code or one of those things to build out something that's a little, less JavaScript, I guess. But this is what happened. So there was 2 phases that I had to build in. First, I built the processing, which was the clip extraction. I used, at first, some local LLMs on my computer to try to do this, and it almost melted my computer. So then I said, no, don't do that. And I went to using Assembly AI, which has like, I think 100 or something free credits you can use for transcription. And I got down to a word level timestamp, which basically then allows me to extract exactly the clip that I need, plus or minus some buffer time, so that I get the whole clip that I need, right? There was, oh my gosh, just being able to have this kind of workflow was like incredible for story development because it allowed me just to think about that, and then everything else, kind of came after that. The way that this was then built, was I had to kind of do a little more planning after like the first attempts I had at making this pipeline didn't work, and so I wanted to make sure things were split into different parts of the app so that they have their own kind of separation of concerns, and then it's better for the CPU. And yeah, these are some of the different outputs that would come out. So I get some markdown, I get some episode scripts. That's really what helps me then drive everything else. And I'll just share some of the other bits here. Once I have all my clips that are extracted, then they get cleaned up through a process that also uses another like Python script that helps do that and does a lot of normalization and sampling and stuff like that. So my biggest key challenges were like the transcript accuracy. I got a lot of 82%, like just not good, like stuff that wasn't usable, and it really made it hard to then sequence stuff. So I'll tell you this right now, in terms of time saved, -40%, because if I would have just gone the normal route and just, clipped stuff myself and then put it on the timeline, probably would have been okay. But instead, like over 2 or 3 weeks, I was like determined and obsessed to get this thing to work. So maybe -40% for the first episode. and maybe for future episodes, it'll be some time savings. But I put it on GitHub as well. So if you're interested, you can check out ClaudPod, and you can also, I don't know, add to it if you want. But yeah, that's the thing that I wanted to share with you all. I had a really great time in this workshop again. Like, just I've learned so much from everybody and gotten so much more comfort level with using these tools I would have never have had before. So yeah, that is my presentation here. I'm going to stop my share, and we have like some time for some questions. If you guys, again, if you can go over by a few minutes, fantastic. If not, I totally get that. This recording will be shared with y'all afterward. I also want to share one thing. So first of all, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat, and we'll pick some people to, yeah. And the other thing is, I'm going to drop in the chat a link if you're interested in like doing the second version of this workshop. It's going to start at the end of this month. I'm really excited about it because there's been some good learnings, and I think I'm excited to do this again. I know this has like helped me quite a bit, and I'll say that. But yeah, there's the link to the form that you can fill out, and the deck, I will definitely share it as well. No problem. So, are there any questions? Does anybody have anything they want to just like throw out there? Gosh, okay. Someone actually asked about dev costs for other people's projects, which I think is really like a great question. I'm sure there's a varying like amount, and also it relates to the question that we all had to face, which was, what if I had to pay for one tool? What would you pay for? Did any of you have any idea of that? Like, you can just unmute yourself and just, yeah, Reid.
Yeah, so I pay a monthly fee of $15 a month to use a agentic coding editor called Windsurf. It's very similar to Cursor. So I pay $15 a month to use that. And then I use my own API keys when I integrate AI. So I tend to use Gemini, which for me, for the most part, will cost anywhere from like, let's say like 20 cents a month to, I mean, some months I've used it a lot, so it's more like maybe $2. So the costs are not huge in the raw like AI API costs. It really depends on the level of the AI model that I'm using.
Go ahead. I'm paying $20 a month for Cursor, which has really been totally worth it. Because I used it to build like 3 different projects. One thing I didn't realize was until after I started paying for it, was there's a feature, there's like a privacy mode. Maybe you guys already know about that, but there's a privacy mode if you're paying for it, where if you have it enabled, and it enables it by default, it won't use any of your inputs for its own training. And that was crucial for being able to use it for like a hackathon project in my company. So I was like, oh, I wanted to, last minute I was like, oh, I wanted to use this. Then I realized, oh, I'm already sort of in compliance, because that was like their requirement. So yeah, that's been great.
Hey guys, there's a person with a question, and I want to honor the hand raise. Joe?
Thanks, I appreciate that. Everyone's presentations were great. From more of a UX perspective, I take this from a ChatGPT sort of release update that they did maybe a year ago, and it's around accessibility and how if you ever voice to text in certain AI models, it's a lot faster than Siri or your iPhone. And if anyone here thinks they have a use case of like, my tool is really great and the voice to text feature is great for people who can't use all 10 digits, people who, if you're mobile, like if it's mobile only, sometimes, talking into your phone, it might just be the way. Judy, for you're like, hey, I'm in Paris and I need this, I don't have time to sit down and type out the prompt. Reminding users of that is a cool feature that I feel like AI tools maybe lack at this stage. So just a a rec. I don't think I saw anyone do that, so something to consider maybe.
All right, cool. Okay, thank you for that, Joe. Any other questions, or does anyone else want to share just the tool, the one tool to rule them all for you, Byron?
I think for me, I'm not gonna lie, I've spent hundreds of months on these AI tools because I wanted to try them all, and it's a new one every week. But what I learned was free picks is really incredible. I actually really got into that last week because it's kind of a one-stop shop, and it has like 20 to 30 different tools on there. And I think that's incredible. And then a tip that's how I actually found out about it. You know, I've been very big on posting on LinkedIn consistently since I started. And what I'm learning is a lot of these AI companies, they're new, and the staff who's working there have been working there for a month or 2 months. And so someone reached out to me just to connect, and from Free Pick to like teach me about it because he see what I was doing. And he actually gave me free credits to try it out. So that was something dope because it made me like show that actually posting on LinkedIn and kind of being in the conversation is helping. So I think that's a cool tip as you guys are working to keep showing your work because you never know who's watching.
I saw that Sam had a question about moving beyond vibe coding and actually deploying an app website. What's the biggest challenge there? I think if you're using something like Replit or Lovable, you want to be able to download the code and then make sure that you have it on your machine, and definitely put it up on GitHub to make sure that you're saving it and storing it. Some of the apps, maybe Lovable does it. I think Replit does. They have a feature, a button that you can use to deploy it, so it kind of automates how to get it onto a public website. So I would check there first. I myself, I really like using, I guess I'm a Google fanboy because I use the Gemini models and I deploy on Google Cloud, and I've got these kind of saved chunks of code. They're not really like automatic scripts, but I use the code to deploy my projects onto Google Cloud. And so I've got maybe like 5 or 6 different projects on there, and I only pay on average like $4 or $5 a month to host all of those apps on Google Cloud.
Nice.
I have a question along those lines. I've always heard that AI code is not production quality. I can't really judge for myself because I'm not a coder. I'm wondering if you anyone has gotten like firsthand knowledge of like where the gaps are, if it's actually that bad that you couldn't use it for production.
So here's something that I was told by a program manager and product manager at Google. He said that every startup has terrible code.
Yeah.
Like Lovable itself, quite honestly, might have terrible code. It's like that's just how the tech industry works. You build fast, you ship fast, and then you just fix it and iterate it and do it better as you go along. As long as you're really good, as long as you're thinking about security. So here's a really good story. Just over the weekend, I was prototyping a new app, and somehow the AI published my environment variables that had my API key for my AI and published it to GitHub. Well, thankfully, both Google and GitHub immediately sent me emails saying your API key is now public. This is a security concern. You need to take care of it. So that's the number one concern is like you want to make sure that you're handling data in a secure way. But as far as like what's the correct way to code and like what's production ready? Production ready just really means, is it fast? Is it scalable? Is it safe? And you know, I always go back to what my friend and startup advisor said. He's like, many tech companies start off with terrible code and then they just iterate and make it better over time.
Super.
Maybe in the next iteration, you should definitely put in some unit tests or some kind of testing strategies. That's one thing I really like about Cloud Code. You have all these like sub agents you can create. It's not like you can't do that with other tools as well. Just it's Yeah, that's definitely something.
I actually just got a note, like I was trying to push some updates to GitHub recently, and it said I got an error in the build or something. It said like GitHub's push protection detected API keys in the server log or something like that. So I was like, oh, there's at least some security around that. So that's cool.
Yeah. We're gonna take one more question, and then I have to jump out to go pick up my kid. Which means I have to stop the recording. Which means this lovely gathering will have to unfortunately end. But Maurice, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm glad I've seen you guys last advertisement just joined in, I guess at the final week and seeing the different demos. But I'm a UXer. I've been front end, back end engineer, and I always work with product managers to help, bring your project together. And I use a lot of AI tools religiously. So like I use Base 44, I use Cursor, and just understanding the development process starts to help you create prompts better. So like your point of displaying API keys, I need to find a source so the AI knows to reference security guidelines. I need my AI to reference a certain design library. So it kind of takes that knowledge and makes it a part of it, so it'll know what to hide, and what not to show on the back end. And it becomes building feature sets. Like I go build a version and be like, okay, this works, this doesn't work. Then I create I go in and say, I need you to change this feature so it can do these things. Or I already know what APIs I want to connect to. I know I wanted to send notifications, so I make sure it has a SendGrid hook. I know I wanted to use, whatever. And it's different cases, but like just that base layer of whatever the app is, it almost becomes I make it a part of the initial prompt. So now all the extras is focusing on the content and things I want to move. And I'm still learning. It's changing. It's evolving. It's definitely been fun how to take those. I'm kind of jealous, the 3-4 weeks it took to do something, or the months it took to do something. I'm literally just telling what to do, and like 5-10 minutes later, I'm already unit testing, UAT, and so yeah.
That's cool. I think the thing I heard you say was this thing about it's really about the context and having really better planning ahead of time of what documentation you might need, and specifically thinking through these different parts of the architecture, or if it's security, all these different kind of subcategories of that should be there
of the project.
Yeah.
What would take 4 or 5 teams to build is now just included into that one prompt, and somewhere at the end of the tunnel, you get a good result. You get a good version 1.
Yeah, that's awesome. It has been a sincere pleasure to get to do this all together today. I will post this on LinkedIn. You'll definitely have it, and the participants here will be tagged. I will also post a tally form on that post on LinkedIn if you want to get it again to sign up for the next workshop. And then on top of that, I would actually love if all the participants here would just stand up for a second, or do your version of standing up, just to get a big applause for all the cool stuff you got to work on. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming today. I mean, it's really awesome to see what we all did together. And yeah, dope. Thanks all.
Thank you, Raphael. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Raph.
Thank you again, Raphael.
Hey, my pleasure. I can't leave the call. Why can't I leave the call? Okay.
Stop the recording, and then maybe you can.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. Gotcha. I will take that out.
Bye, guys.
Finish recording and stop recording.